Hello, I'm Wes the Explosion. This is the Backlog, and I'm throwing this together a little last minute, so let's get right into it. Played Undertale this week. I already played through the game once on Steam, but I could buy a plushie of Sans and get a download code for the Switch, so that's what I did, because I find plushies hard to resist. Now, I have a weird relationship with this game, although I'm sure it's not entirely unique. Where when the game came out, I didn't play it right away, so I heard a few things about it, let it go a little bit longer, and then pretty much had the entire game spoiled for me, to the point where I knew everything about this game without ever having played it. I even knew some of the freaking weird, buggy, data manipulation crap that no normal person would know about because my gosh, the internet could not shut up about this game. And you know what? When I played it for Steam, I kind of half-assed it and just kind of rushed through the game. This playthrough, I gave it a bit more attention and actually made a full playthrough rather than just kind of half-assing it. But it was still a bit of a rush. And I just feel kind of bad for that. But, it's hard to get enthusiastic about all of the secrets and all of the nitty-gritty bits when you already know everything because the internet has spoiled the entire thing for you. And Undertale really doesn't deserve that kind of treatment. Because fanbase aside, internet spoilers aside, this is a great game. It has a fun and unique battle system, a mix between RPGs and bullet hell. It has charming characters, it has an interesting story, and the music is frickin' fantastic. I have the soundtrack and I can listen to it at, just any point. It doesn't need to have game context around it at all. I can just jam out to it, and my goodness, playing through it this time, there were several times, just at work or in my everyday life, where one of these songs would get just stuck in my head and I could not get it out. So yeah, the basic premise of this game, without spoiling too much, is you're a human who falls into an underground world where monsters live. And you want to make your way back to the surface. When you fight monsters, you can either actually defeat them to gain experience, or you can try and figure out a way to just do some conflict resolution and not fight anyone throughout the entire game if you so choose. It seems pretty simple, but there is like a pretty actual, meaty story here if you get into it. And the game explains most of it pretty well, so you're not gonna need to go onto forums for too much to figure out what the hell happened. Which is nice. It's kind of annoying when you need to pretty much write the story for the game itself because the author never bothered actually elaborating on anything. Really, the only caveat with this game is that it's been spoiled to hell and back, which makes it hard to experience the story in the way it was intended. So, here's my recommendations. 1. If you haven't played this game, if you know nothing about it, forget everything I just said and just play it. Go play it. You know nothing? It'll be a truly magical time, and you'll probably enjoy yourself. I don't think I've ever met anyone who's had a bad thing to say about this game, only ever about its fan base. 2, if you haven't played it but you know a good bit about it, still play it because it's still a good time, and you probably want to experience it for yourself at least once. 3. If you've already played it, or if you know enough about it that, you think that it wouldn't be your type of game, but the story and everything still seems like it might be interested, I believe pretty much every Let's Player out there has done a playthrough of this. Pick your favorite and watch it with them. That way you'll be able to play it with fresh eyes, or at least watch it with fresh eyes, and it'll just be a special time for the person you're watching, and it'll be a special time for you too. But yeah, play Undertale, watch Undertale, just in some way, shape, or form, experience Undertale. Another interesting thing that I've been told about this game is that it has been used to apparently teach kids empathy. Hell, some adults even need that. So yeah, that's another really interesting little facet of it. I mean, I don't know. If video games are ever used as a learning tool in school, I think this should be probably required playing, just because of some of its unique properties. Also wrapped up Panzer Paladin this week, which I just finished this last night. I was not expecting it. It took me a lot longer than I thought just to find the time to play Undertale, so I was expecting that to be my only topic this week, except for maybe what we're gonna talk about after this. But yeah, Panzer Paladin. I played it on the Switch, but I believe it is also available for Steam and possibly a few other consoles as well. Now this is obviously an older style game, the main influence seeming to be Mega Man with the way the levels are structured, with it being one intro stage, 8 stages that you can choose to fight through and beat the boss in any order, and then a gauntlet of final Wily-S stages, the first of which I'm playing through here. The setting for this is you are a female robot named Flare, piloting a seemingly sentient mecha named Grit. And you are a search and rescue team, but when a bunch of evil weapons start raining from the sky, summoning demons to Earth, you actually go on the offensive. Now, when you beat enemies, you can sometimes get weapons from them, which you can hold up to 4 at a time. The rest go into storage, which you seem to be able to access at any point, which I did not find out until later. And that was a huge help once I learned that. You can also use your shield to block most attacks, and if you're fighting a melee unit and you block an attack immediately afterwards, you can actually stun them and get some pretty good parries off. The weapons have durability, so you're going to be breaking through a lot of them very quickly, and just using the next one you pick up. We could compare it to Breath of the Wild, but I mean, let's face it, it's not like they invented the style or anything. Am I sounding bitter? I might be. I don't know. Apologies. Either way, you can also break your weapon to cast a spell, ranging from things like heals, giving your weapon a beam attack, increasing your attack power or defense, and a few other things that aren't entirely clear right away when you see them. Now between that and the storage unit, it seems like this game would have really benefited from an old-style instruction booklet, and I almost think that that might have been intended. But, unless you get the physical release of the game, which I think came out a good bit after the main drop of the game, you're probably not going to have that, so you might want to read up on a few of the finer aspects. The game has 3 difficulty settings, unless there's more unlockable later on. Easy, normal, and hard. I played through on hard, and it was like a decent challenge. It took me a few tries to get through each of the regular stages, and then once I got to the final stages, I mean, the first of the, final stages was a pain in the ass. That was actually why I took a break from this game. And again, that's what I'm playing now. And then the last stage took me quite a few tries, but the rest, by that point I was used to things enough that it didn't give me too much trouble. So, you can pick your difficulty, and it probably won't be too bad of a game to beat. But it also depends on just what sort of, games you like to play as well, and where your skill level's at. This is the sort of game that I like, especially being a Mega Man fan, so yeah, I enjoyed my time with it, although there was some bullshit in the last sets of levels. But it also seems like the sort of game that the more I play it, the better I'll get, and after a while, it'll probably just start to seem like second nature, so I'll have a lot of replayability that way. Also for replayability wise, after you beat the main game, you get opened up a few extra options like tournament mode, which I'm guessing is like a boss rush, but I haven't checked it out yet, so I'm not 100%, and also a stage remix. So yeah, I think there's value here. If you're into these sorts of platformers, I'd say definitely give it a look. Last bit of interest this week, the latest Smash DLC, Pyra and Mythra. I played through Classic mode with them, and I also did their Spirit Board and 100-man Smash. And yeah, they're interesting. They're sword characters, but they have some things that change them up that make them stand out at least a little bit. Like Pyra's ability to frickin' zone off the edge with that little whirligig I just did. Jeez. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They're new, so it's kinda hard to tell how good they'll be. I've already seen some people calling them broken, but I swear that every new character comes out, they are always broken until people figure out how to beat them and what their weaknesses and shortcomings are. So it's gonna take some time to see how good they really are. But, I mean, you can play as a mid-heavy, I don't know what you'd want to call Pyra, she kind of straddles both lines. And, you know, like a speedy, fast character with Mythra, so, you know, I could see just the change out making him pretty good. Now, I myself am a character loyalist in Smash, so since I haven't played Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I don't know really much about these characters, so I have no interest in playing them. Now don't get me wrong, the game seems like the sort that I would really like if I got around to playing it, but until I either clear out my backlog enough that I feel comfortable picking up this game, or it goes on sale for a great price, I probably will not get around to playing it. But when I do, it probably will be 2 months before they announce a definitive edition, like they did with Persona 5 and Tokyo Mirage Sessions, and pretty much every Disgaea game I've ever played. That reminds me, did you see that they're announcing an expanded edition of Final Fantasy VII Remake? I mean, seriously, it hasn't even been a year since that game's come out. What are you, taking after frickin' Capcom at this point? Yeah, I remember Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and then Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Ultimate coming out 10 frickin' months later. Jeez, don't do this. It kind of defeats the point and discourages people from buying games at launch because, oh my gosh, it's just gonna be outdated in like 6 months. Damnation. So anyway, that's my Sans Plush. In addition to games, this week I also finished a light novel, the first volume of No Game, No Life. I watched the anime like years ago and I really enjoyed it, so I figured I'd enjoy the book as well, but it might have made me a little uncomfortable this time round. Not to sound overly woke, but was it always that misogynistic? The things they do to Steph are horrible, and the way they treat her makes me uncomfortable. I find the setting and concept of it very interesting, so I kinda want to see where it goes, but I'm not sure how much more of that I can take. I might need to back off, although I do still have the second volume, so I will give it a little bit more of a try. It does some very interesting things with sentence structure and punctuation. Some of the paragraphs are started with a hyphen for whatever reason, and there's a lot of not complete sentences, which, I don't know, that could be a translation error, I'm not sure, but I like Japanese light novels because they're very easy reading. Although if I had to suggest the series, I probably wouldn't do this one, I'd probably say Spice and Wolf. Now that's a good one. A very Nintendo Switch-centric week this time around, with 2 more coming off the list. I touched on this briefly earlier, but despite the short runtime, it took me a lot longer to get through Undertale than I thought it would. Guess I was just busier than I figured this week, or maybe I just had motivation problems, I don't know. but it was a pleasant surprise being able to knock off Paladin as well there. Still mulling over what I'll do this upcoming week. I mean, when you have 132 games left, there's a bit of choice overload, if you get what I'm saying. So yeah, but you know what? I'll figure it out. Also need to look into my PC a bit more. I'm not sure whether I'll do that this week or put it off over the next few months, but my gosh, I'm having trouble just getting my damn camera to work. So, if one of the weeks I don't have any live action segments, please forgive me. Either way, if you've watched this far, thanks a ton. If you like this sort of thing, maybe hit subscribe, cause we do this once a week, or until something horrible happens that prevents that. And I'll see you hopefully next week for another one of these suckers. Later.